Hi, thanks TikTok. Thanks everybody. Hello. Welcome to the Pillar Revolution. I was just going to do a quick live about how Americans and humans are still here. There's uh, a revolution going on. And it's been going on for some time, or it's been boiling underneath the surface for some time, but it's coming to the fore. I've always called it the Pillar Revolution because I think we can do a lot of it from bed. We can do it on our phones. In this case, we can do it by showing that there's still humans out there, that there's still Americans out there, despite the MAGA. So if you see my title, is God schizo? Meaning, is God schizophrenic? Or are MAGA churches Antichrist? And the answer, well, you can answer the question. I'll keep asking until somebody gets here to show up to answer it. Is God schizo? Or are MAGA churches Antichrist? So answer the question if you have an answer for it, but I'll answer it myself. Is God schizo, or are MAGA churches Antichrist? You can put 1 or 2 if you don't want to type out. You can put A or B. A, is God schizo? Like, is God schizophrenic? Or B, are MAGA churches Antichrist? Go ahead and vote. I'll tell you the answer. I mean, it's a pretty obvious answer, but the options seem to be, is God schizo? Because God has followers who support Jesus, and God has followers who support the Antichrist Trump. So is God a schizophrenic being, or are MAGA churches Antichrist, meaning they don't worship God? Or, conversely, Jesus isn't from God. Jesus is from someone else, let's say. I don't want to spoil it, but I'll tell you. I mean, I'm not trying to be secretive here. Hello, just kind of waiting to see if there's somebody who's respondable in the audience. Otherwise, it's up to TikTok. If TikTok decides not to give me a respondable audience, we'll start again another time. But usually you can trick TikTok into sending one more person your way by almost closing out the live. So the question is God schizophrenic, or are MAGA churches Antichrist? The answer is MAGA churches are Antichrist. That doesn't mean God couldn't be schizophrenic. Their God could be schizophrenic, I guess. Their God seems to be the Antichrist seems to be pretty consistent in all of its dealings with all of its victims. So Trumpers, Trumputineers, as I call them, all the different branches of Trumpers, no matter where they come from, are all part of the same collective, and it's Antichrist. Jesus isn't behind that. Jesus has nothing to do with that. I can prove it. So Trump is Antichrist. MAGA churches are Antichrist. And God, their God is just fake. Their God is a lie. Their God, the God of patriarchy, just isn't real, doesn't really exist. Now, it exists in the sense like racism exists. Racism exists because we created it, not because it's natural, not because it should exist. But the answer is, sorry, I said I'm cat's tail. The answer is, MAGA churches are Antichrist. God is not necessarily schizophrenic, but it's two different beings. The MAGA churches, the Antichrist churches, worship one being, and the goddess, what Jesus is from, the being that Jesus can be associated with, is actually the goddess, not God. So, I'll go ahead and close this live down, and we'll start again soon. If you were starting to enjoy this, I'll be back soon. I'm just going to go ahead and get up, maybe put this in a video, and get dressed. But to answer the question that I posed in the title, God isn't necessarily schizophrenic, but God is a dangerous lie. The God of patriarchy is a dangerous lie. Doesn't really exist. Isn't really a God. And it's just as much a God as Trump himself or Putin himself are. Yeah, he's a God to these people because these people are wrong. They're victims. MAGA is Antichrist. That's how the Antichrist works. But the goddess, who Jesus is from, is just completely different. It's not a schizophrenic God who has Jesus followers who understand Jesus and MAGA followers who only understand the Antichrist. It's their God is fake. Their God is a lie. And the real goddess, the goddess that Jesus is from, is real. And that's the only one that's real. Now, if that sounds radical and different to you, it's just because it was set up that way. Jesus allowed the church to go patriarchal as a trap for 2,000 years, and then he's going to replace it with Judas. So that's what we're going to do here, and I'll do it when I get back, because TikTok didn't pick any